Hello, this is Mahlena Ray Johnson with For Nerdy Girls with Mahlena Ray Johnson. And today's topic is you don't have to be everything to anybody. First, today, oh, jeez. Okay. Shh. All right. Today's topic is still you don't have to be everything to anybody. And today's date is May 29th, 2018. So I am Mahlena, and I'm going to explain how to focus on who you are so you can get what you want. Okay, then who am I? I'm still Mahlena Ray Johnson. And I went to Loyola Marymount University for film school. Then I went to the University of Southern California for business school, where I got my MBA in marketing, entertainment, and entrepreneurship. So I am immensely qualified to help you. Okay, I am immensely qualified to help you with networking and with making new friends, but I forgot to say why. So why I have conducted hundreds of informational interviews and coffee chats. I have attended hundreds of networking events and conferences, and I have connected with thousands of people all over the world. And that is why I'm qualified to help you make new friends, and especially in business. So today, topic again is you don't have to be everything to anybody. Why this topic today? Well, yesterday I was working on my book, my fifth book. What is it called? You have no idea. So my fourth book is Love It a Luau. I published it at the beginning of May, and it's about a refugee suffering from PTSD who was scared to fall in love with a single dad. And I'm working on my fifth book, which is called But You Have No Idea. It's a sequel to a screenplay that I wrote, but it's going to be a comedic romance novel. It is a parallel story to Love It a Luau. It actually goes a little longer, so you actually see what happens with Casey, who's the star of Love It a Luau, 2 years later, because the book takes that long. The point of this is that as I was writing, I was doing research because But You Have No Idea, my fifth book, is about a similarly a refugee, but I'm still working on the tagline. Essentially, it's about two couples. It's about one person, but two couples who deal with infidelity, betrayal, and a polyamorous relationship where they become a quad. And that is a term that I learned yesterday from doing research on polyamory and polyamorous couples, and not just the lifestyle actually refers to swinging, which is not the same as polyamory, but rules and guidelines for behavior and perceptions. And I went in looking for all this research and came out feeling, I guess, very defensive of people who have a different lifestyle than the heteronormative, monogamous, normative relationships that we are presented with, me, in the United States. And instead of just saying, oh, I need to make sure that I should add this concept and people having communication, because I already knew about the communication part, and that's important in any relationship, but especially is emphasized with polyamorous relationships because it's relationships with among more than two people. The other aspect I did not really take into account, which is at the end of my book, is public perception of polyamorous relationships. So I read an article and I was like, oh, that all makes sense. Then I read the comments and I was like, oh, these people are not very nice. It seemed like all this stuff was explained. It made sense. And then people were being very ignorant and willfully ignorant because the article explained about what polyamorous relationships are. And they're using stereotypes and calling names, and it was like, oh no, this is not good. And then I felt like, oh my gosh, I have to talk about all this research because then I just kept reading articles and posts and guidelines, and I was like, I gotta put all of this into the book. And the book isn't really it isn't a textbook about polyamory. I'm not teaching a class. I'm just writing an entertaining novel. And a lot of that stuff doesn't come in until the end of the book when the relationship actually forms. A lot of the stuff before it is very sci-fi driven in that, similarly to the protagonist in Love It or Luau, the same, not the same protagonist, but her friend or her friends whom she worked with, they're in this book. Their names are Noah and Moro, and they are similarly excised from this community which has been invaded and evacuated, but Noah was the target of the evacuation and invasion, and she was blamed for all of the things that caused this militia to come in and just decimate the city. Well, just evacuate the city. The city's still there. And that's a lot of what the first part of the book is about. It's not really about how relationships are structured. It's more they're in a new place and they're living underground. They can't talk to anybody for outside of their communities for 5 years, and that's the whole base of the story. It's not really about a defensive play, right? So that is the part of do your research. So I did my research, but then I got caught up in the research, and that's why I wanted to have this video today, to remind myself and you all that you can get caught in the research trap of making sure that you are fully prepared for every conference that you go to, every coffee chat that you go to, every meeting that you go to, every encounter that you might have, and you are so focused on the research that you forget the whole point of what you're doing, which is to make a connection with somebody else. And it doesn't necessarily make sense to use every aspect of all the research that you've done in this one interaction. And my interaction is a book, which is going to be about 200 pages. So there's definitely time to explore everything. But when, let's say you're going to, no, I'm not using sailing today. Okay, let's go. Let's say you want to enter a football arena. Since I've been listening to, well, I've been both looking at consuming stuff about American football and regular football. So we're talking about regular football all over the world. Let's say you're going to a networking event where you know there's going to be lots of people in the football industry, and you didn't know that much about the football industry. You mean you know how to play, you could dribble a ball, but you wanted to make sure that you were ready. And then you go in and you're ready to talk with football people, and you start talking about Neymar and Pele and Manchester United and what is it? Real Madrid, and you have all the you've seen all the goal movies, and they're just standing there saying, I wanted to know if what you do, and you forget all about what you do because you've done so much research on all this other aspect to make sure that you're prepared. And I want you to know that, yes, do your research, but do what makes sense for you. When usually what makes sense is making a connection with the other person. And in terms of my book, I want to make sure that this book is accurate, yes, and that I have done my research, but I also want people to laugh and feel emotionally involved and attached with all the characters and caught up in the story. And when you're going to an event or you're going in a group, similarly, you're not just there to talk about the topic of the group. You should be informed, but you're there to present who you are. And you can't be an expert on everything to every person. And you may also know about FIFA if you're going to the soccer this soccer group where you're a football club and you're like, I know about FIFA and I got to stand up for the rights for all the oppressed people that FIFA has beaten down over the years. Like, that's a lot of information, and the person next to you just wants to know if you're enjoying your shrimp and grits. You're like, oh yeah, I am. Okay. So this goes into number 3. Do your best, not someone else's best. If you're in a group, you're talking to someone, you're at an event, wherever you are, focus on what you know. You can't be an expert on coaching football teams all over the world if you've ever done that. You can't be an expert on manufacturing footballs if you haven't done that. If you're there because you know something about business strategy, or you know something about financing a team, or you know something about managing players' lives after they leave the league, that's what your expertise is. For me, in my book, my expertise is dialogue and writing dialogue after I've created well-rounded characters. And by well-rounded means I know all the stuff about them. I can create characters, I can create lovely dialogue that makes sense in the situation. I'm never going to be the biggest expert on polyamory or on underground communities because I haven't lived in one. And by underground, I mean literally the community is underground, not like polyamory is underground. The community is literally on the floor of the Pacific Oceans, and that's where they live, and that's where most of the action takes place. I'm not going to be an expert on all that. I know what I do, and I bring what I have researched into my projects so that it makes sense and it feels authentic. Similarly, you should bring who you are into your projects and what you've learned into your projects, but focus on you. You can do your research, then do what makes sense for you, and do your best, not somebody else's best. You're never going to be somebody else's best. You need to be your best, and focus on what you can do and trust that you are doing the right thing with where you are on your journey of what you want to accomplish. And people will really appreciate that. They'll appreciate that you've done the research, but they will more appreciate that you want to have a genuine connection with them and have a good experience with them, regardless of how many facts and statements and how much trivia you know about a subject. So I want you to remember, you don't have to be everything to anybody. Do your research, do what makes sense for you, and do your best, not someone else's best. So if you have enjoyed this, please let me know in the comments, or if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments, or email me at fornerdygirls@gmail.com. Again, that's fornerdygirls@gmail.com. And if you would like to have a conversation with me about how do I present my best self at these events, I don't know anything about football, or you just think, well, I'm not really into football, but I would like to have a conversation about you, not about me, a conversation with you, Mahlena, about the strategies that I should use to network, then email me at fornerdygirls@gmail.com and let's have a networking strategy conversation where you and I will meet for 50 minutes. You're going to be talking, I'm going to be writing stuff down, and we'll formulate a plan to get you networking immediately with the best strategy for you. Again, email me at fornerdygirls@gmail.com so we can have a networking strategy conversation. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.